It's Cyber Monday around Major League Baseball with a ton of deals going down, not so much with the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk about the ones that are affecting the Atlanta Braves. Also, we'll continue our positional reviews looking at the starting pitching for the Atlanta Braves now and in the future. We'll be talking about that and so much more on today's Monday episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
Hey, this is Stacey Gotsoulias,
DC Lundberg,
Ryan Finkelstein,
Taylor Blake Ward,
host of Locked On Yankees,
Locked On Mariners,
Locked On Mets,
Locked On Angels,
and you're listening to Locked On Braves.
Locked On Braves,
Locked On Braves,
part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your favorite teams every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. Check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves over at TomahawkTake.com. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button there as well. Continue to subscribe to us on YouTube, where we're starting to see a big increase in numbers, so appreciate the support there. And also, thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. Do really appreciate the support. Just as a reminder, we are continuing to post episodes daily in the off season, Monday through Friday. So plenty of Atlanta Braves content out there for you for your World Series champion Atlanta Braves. On today's podcast, we are going to be talking about all the moves that have been going down across Major League Baseball as teams try to get deals done before the lockout occurs on Thursday. The deadline is Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So, essentially Thursday is when this current CBA will expire, and there will be a roster freeze. So, teams trying to get deals done early so they can get physicals taken care of and all of that. So that's why you're seeing a flurry of moves happen here in the beginning of the week. And we're sure to see a lot more on Monday. So we talk about all of that, especially the ones impacting the Atlanta Braves and the NL East. And then we'll continue our positional review, going to be looking at the starting pitching for the Atlanta Braves, both now and in the future. What does it look like for 2022? How promising is it going forward? So we'll be talking about all of that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. But let's start with the crazy free agency that we are seeing right now across Major League Baseball. All the deals that have gotten done, the biggest one being Marcus Semien going to the Texas Rangers, 7 years, $175 million. That one's pretty interesting because it's probably a similar deal to what Freddie Freeman, probably should be getting. Both similar players, similar skill set as far as, good hitters, solid defenders, and, about the same age range as well. So a lot of people have kind of looked at that deal as a model for what Freddie Freeman should get. Don't know that he will get it or the Braves would go to that length, but, kind of similar to what Freddie Freeman probably should be getting on the free agent market. We've also seen John Gray go to the Rangers. They also signed Cole Calhoun. You saw Kevin Gausman get a big 5-year deal from the Toronto Blue Jays. Adam Frazier got traded from the Padres to the Mariners. Just a ton of deals getting done. The Mets making a lot of moves as well, and it sounds like they're very close to potentially getting Max Scherzer, which is very, very interesting, obviously, to what the Braves are trying to do and win the division again. Looks like the Mets will probably be their biggest rival there, and it sounds like they're close, and it sounds like it's going to be a huge deal when it gets done, with the Mets reportedly offering over $40 million a year for 3 or 4 years. As a Braves fan, I kind of hope that happens because I think that's definitely a deal that could hamstring the Mets. Yes, when Scherzer pitches, he's one of the best in baseball, but I just don't know how much he has left in the tank. Been battling injuries the last couple of years. So we'll see if that gets done. It's reportedly going to get done on Monday, so probably talking about it on Tuesday's podcast, but it sounds like Scherzer could be going to the Mets, at least as I'm recording this early Monday morning. Mets also got Starling Marte, gave him a big deal, 4 years, $78 million for Starling Marte. I like that signing. I've always loved Starling Marte. Of course, I loved him more 3-4 years ago. I really wanted the Braves to get him. He's not a center fielder in my mind. He's a corner outfielder, but the Mets are probably going to play him in center field where he'll be, just fine. And he's obviously very solid with the bat. So that's a very good signing for them. They also get Eduardo Escobar for 2 years and $20 million. He'll be a fine switch hitting power bat. They can play both corner infield spots. So again, another good signing for them. They also signed Mark Canha. Again, another good signing. I'm liking these signings from the Mets, and they're creating a lot of depth there as well. So, 3 really, really good signings there for the Mets. Now they're looking for starting pitching. They've missed out on Gausman, who's one of their top targets. They're trying hard not to miss out on Max Scherzer. So the Mets are certainly going for it. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily scared of the Mets at this point. As a Braves fan, I still don't think with the moves they've made, that they've passed the Braves in my mind, but certainly seems like they're going to be the biggest competition to the Braves in the NL East next season. And they are geared up, ready to spend a lot of money, as we knew they would, but it sounds like they're starting to make some really smart signings, although I don't know that the Scherzer one would be considered a smart signing, but they desperately are looking for some starting pitching. Elsewhere in the National League East, the Marlins signed Avisail Garcia for 4 years and $53 million. So they get some power in their lineup. Again, not a move that really scares me. He's not very good defensively. Does have some pop in the bat, but he's around a 775, 800 OPS player. Not necessarily anything that's going to turn the Marlins around, but with all the young talent they have, getting a veteran like Avisail Garcia, who does have some power, a very nice signing for them. And we're still expected to see a lot more deals get done on Monday and Tuesday. I'm hoping one of those deals is a Freddie Freeman deal, but I just don't know. The more this goes on, the more worried I get that, not that it's not going to happen, that it's just not going to happen before the lockout, which is going to make for a very depressing cold winter here, depending on how long this lockout will last. But still, fingers crossed that the Braves find a way to get a deal done with Freddie Freeman before the lockout happens. But again, I think we'll still see a lot of big signings made before the lockout, which is just kind of interesting. I was watching Hot Stove this morning, listening to Harold Reynolds, who very rarely makes points that I agree with. But one thing he did say is it's kind of crazy that we're about to go into a lockout because players and teams are fighting over players not getting enough money, and yet we're seeing an absurd amount of money in years given to free agents right now. So, it's kind of hypocritical of what they're going to be talking about in CBA negotiations, because money is just being thrown around. I mean, these deals that are getting made, they seem like huge overpays to me. It's kind of hard from a fan standpoint to sit here and say, why are we going into a lockout when money is being spent, this quickly by teams like the Rangers, like the Blue Jays, teams that don't normally spend that type of money. So that's going to be a frustrating part, from a fan's perspective, the fact that things are going to be shut down and it seems like the game is in a great place. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard as a fan to see what the players and owners are fighting over, which is about money. And some of it, warranted. The fact that players want younger players to get paid, what they deserve, or at least to get paid more when they're in their young ages and they're playing, at an all-star level, and yet getting paid, the minimum salary, or just a couple of million through arbitration. I can kind of understand that, although I kind of like that system because it keeps your young players on the team longer. The players that you developed, that you signed or drafted and brought up through your organization, it allows you to keep them around a lot longer. And as a fan, I like that. I like when your young players come up and you can, buy their jersey and know they're going to be there for a while. So I like that part of the system. It could probably be tweaked a little bit where the minimum guaranteed is higher and maybe you start making money through arbitration sooner. But I do not want to see that arbitration process go away, or those first, 6 years of control that a team has over a player go away. I like that as a fan because I know it means that my player is going to be sticking around, for a while. The other thing is competitiveness across the league, less teams tanking. I would love to see a payroll floor, say of like $100 million to see, more teams try to be competitive each and every year, even when they are rebuilding. I definitely think that's something that needs to be talked about. I don't want to see playoffs expanded, but that may give, more incentive for teams to spend and try to go for it each and every season. But I would like to see some more competitiveness across the league, more teams going for it each and every year. But for the player side, that's just to get more money because they want people to spend more money on free agents to have higher payrolls across the board, across the league. So it's all about money. What it comes down to, as these things, negotiations always are. It's all about money. How can the players get more? How can the owners hang on to what they have? That's what it's all going to be about. And yet here we are seeing money just thrown around to free agents right now. So for me, it's hard to really get behind the players when you're seeing money like this be spent. But they got to fight for what they feel like they deserve as well. But it's just going to be really difficult from a fan's perspective to go into a lockout like this when you're seeing players get paid like they are. But again, you're going to see a lot more deals happen. We'll be talking about them throughout the week, Tuesday and Wednesday's podcast. Before, unfortunately, things are probably going to get very silent on here for a while with the lockout beginning. Next, we're going to continue our positional review, looking at the starting pitching position for the Braves, which won them a World Series in 2021. So we'll look at what they have in 2022 and beyond. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirectTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirectTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required and content varies by package. All right, so continuing our positional review, looking at the starting position or starting pitching position for the Atlanta Braves and what they have now going into 2022, assuming no more signings, this throughout the offseason, which I wouldn't be surprised if there are, but, just looking at what the Braves have now, you have Charlie Morton, Max Fried, and Ian Anderson. Those are your guaranteed 3 starters in the rotation for me right now. Behind them is a bit of a question mark, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if Alex goes out and gets another, veteran, maybe middle of the rotation, maybe even back of the rotation type starter. Maybe somebody like Drew Smyly, but not Drew Smyly, and hopefully not for $11 million. But somebody of that, type, somebody that can give you some innings, pitch, middle of the rotation, give you middle of the rotation type innings. That would, be something that I think Alex would probably want to go after this offseason if it's available and in the right price range. If not, then my pick right now would be Kyle Wright and Tucker Davidson for those final 2 spots. It's now or never for Kyle Wright in my mind. He was really good the second half of the season in Gwinnett and then had a really good showing in the World Series. So I think you got to give him a shot there and just see if the changes that he's made, can lead to a good big league career and see whether or not they can pay off and that he can be consistent with it. That he can trust his stuff, which has always been the big question mark for him. Can he trust his stuff at the big league level? So I would give Kyle Wright a rotation spot. And then I like Tucker Davidson. I know he didn't have the outing in the World Series that a lot we're hoping for, but I think he's a very solid back of the rotation arm at the big league level for several years to come. So he's probably who I would go with, either him or Kyle Muller. Let them battle it out in spring training. But those would be, my top choices for the starting rotation as far as what's on the 40-man roster now. I think that's probably what you're looking at going into 2022 season. Huascar Ynoa will probably get a shot in the rotation again. I think he's more so going to be a bullpen arm going forward, maybe kind of a multi-inning reliever, a bridge, long reliever type guy. But I think that's ultimately the role that we see for Huascar Ynoa. But because of what he did at the beginning of 2021, I think he at least gets another shot in the rotation. I think Sean Newcomb, Tougie Toussaint, those guys their chances are done in the starting rotation, at least with the Atlanta Braves. They could be serious trade candidates to maybe get another shot if they want to continue to be starters. They'll get another shot on another team. Otherwise, I think they're ticketed for the bullpen as well. And then obviously you have the big question mark in Mike Soroka, who, when healthy is a top of the rotation pitcher, but I can't count on that right now. Don't know when he'll be back and what he'll look like when he comes back. So I would not be counting on him for much right now, but if he does come back and he is the Mike Soroka that we know, then, you're looking at another, middle to a top of the rotation type of guy. So there's pretty solid depth there. You typically need around 8 or 9 starters going into a year to get through a season, and the Braves certainly have that. So they look really good right now. Again, I still would like for them to go out and sign one more, starting pitcher, for less than, $8 million or less that can give you some innings, give you some quality innings in the middle or back of the rotation. If I was Alex Antablos, that's what I'd be looking for. I don't see them going out and getting another top of the rotation guy. I think they already have 2 in Morton and Fried. Again, if Soroka comes back, and the Soroka we've seen in the past, and you have 3 top of the rotation pitchers, and Ian Anderson can be a solid 2 at times, but I think it's more so a 3 type starter. So, I mean, that's a really solid starting rotation. Like I said, a starting rotation that shut down the Dodgers, that shut down the Houston Astros to win a World Series. So, the Braves starting rotation is really good, if healthy, if all together. So I feel really good about their starting rotation going into 2022. All right, next I want to look at the future of the rotation. What do they look like for 2022 and beyond? Before we do that, let me tell you about Built Bar, because it is here, the best Monday of the year. It is Cyber Monday, and Built.com is the place to aim your mouse. Get at least 20% off everything delicious and healthy. That's 20% off site-wide, and even bigger discounts on Built Boost, Broth, and Built Swag. There's a brand new Built Bar flavor that just landed in time for Cyber Monday. It's the Caramel Almond Delight, and it delivers everything it promises with caramelized chocolate, check, almonds, check, delightful, double check. Be sure to get yours before they're gone. They have 150 calories and only 17 grams, or only 150 calories and 17 grams of protein. And this season, maybe you're craving white chocolate for a limited time. Get a special new Built Bar Puffs flavor called White Chocolate Cheesecake. The yummy protein treat filled with marshmallowy center, covered in white chocolate, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein. 'Tis the season to save and get your taste buds the gift of Built Bar. Get to Built.com for these incredible tasting new bars and 20% off everything. Head to Built.com, enter code LOCKED20 before it's too late. All right, so finally wrapping this up, looking at the future and the starting pitching for the Atlanta Braves. Morton only signed through 2022, likely done after 2022. I would imagine, if he does want to come back, I could see the Braves doing another 1-year deal for 15, 20 million, depending on, how well he pitches. I think at this point, it's just how much longer does Morton want to go? It's really just up to him right now. He's coming back for 2022. We know if he has another great season and wants to come back again, I could see the Braves maybe bringing him back for around that same price, $15, $20 million. They have Fried and Soroka signed through 2024, or not signed through 2024, but they have team control over them through 2024 through arbitration. Wright, Inoa, and Anderson are all in the arbitration process through 2026, and then Davidson and Moeller through 2027. So, you got some young guys. You probably want to try to lock up Fried for a couple more years if you can. I've mentioned in the past, I'm a little bit more skeptical of giving out contract extensions to starting pitchers. And Fried has been, injured a pretty good bit throughout his career. Some of that's just blister stuff that's going to come and go, not long stints on the IL, but still, I think it's just a little bit risky giving extensions to starting pitchers, but certainly Fried, one of the best in all of baseball. So maybe the Braves look to try and extend him past the 2024 season if he was willing to do that. Now, he may not be willing to. He may want to go to free agency, test that market, and try to get a bigger payday than what he would probably get. Again, with the extensions, it's always, does the player want security of guaranteed money now, or do they want to bet on themselves to hit free agency? Because again, we talked about it with the money and years that are being given out in free agency right now. It's ridiculous. So if you can bet on yourself and you can stay healthy into your free agency season, you're likely going to get much more than you would get than you would in just a regular extension from a team. I mean, look at look at Acuna, look at Albies. You know, they went for the guaranteed, secure, money, which, good on them. They're set for life. But I mean, can you imagine Acuna hitting free agency in a couple of years with the money given out right now? I mean, he could get Mike Trout, type money. So, it's that security versus, kind of the risk, because if you do get injured or have a down year, then obviously you're not going to get that money you were hoping for in free agency. And it's best to take the safe money that you get through the extension. So that's all just in how a player values himself and the risk they want to take versus the security that they want to take. And, teams will try to take advantage of that. Players that just want that security and try to lock them up through an extension. So that's really what it's all about. I think some fans think that, he's with us, just give him an extension, but, that's not always what the player wants. So again, I don't know if that's something that Fried wants or not. I'm sure the Braves will probably try to explore that, but still they have some very good pitching under control for several years here. But obviously, Morton, Fried, Soroka, those are three of their top pitchers when healthy, and they're only under control for a couple of more seasons. And then Anderson through 2026, those are your top guys right now. Prospect wise, you have your last two first-round picks in Ryan Cusick and Jared Schuster, who I didn't love those picks, but they are starters right now. I think both of them could end up being relievers, but they are developed as starters at the moment. Both have very good success in their early minor league careers, but they are in the system, could be ready, by 2024. Spencer Strider, we already saw him, in the major leagues as a reliever. We'll see. I think he could ultimately become a reliever as well, but I'm sure they'll put him back in the starting rotation in AAA in 2022. We'll see how he develops, but he's obviously, right there knocking on the door to get into the big leagues. Already has, a taste of it as a reliever, but also knocking on the big leagues as a starter. So is Bryce Elder out of Texas, a college arm who really shot up through the system in 2022. I thought when they drafted him that he would be a safe bet for a back of the rotation arm. And I think that could be happening as soon as 2022, certainly 2023, probably at the latest. But I think we could see him, make an appearance as a starter in 2022. But really like Bryce Elder. Again, not a top of the rotation arm for me, but somebody that I think has a very high floor as a back of the rotation starter, maybe middle of the rotation starter upside. And then Freddie Tarnok made a huge jump in 2021, pitched really well, got added to the 40-man roster in order to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. So, he still has a ways to go development-wise. Injuries have really set him back, and he struggled when he has been healthy. But again, had a big 2021 season. If he continues to progress like that, is he likely gets moved up to AAA in 2022? He's somebody that we could see in the rotation in a year or two as well. So there are several good young starting rotation options here for the Braves going forward. There are guys like Wright, Moeller, Davidson, who I would like to see kind of step up and assert themselves, become more consistent big league starters here in the next couple of years. That would make me feel much better about the future of the rotation for the Braves, 2024 and past that. So, and then, if one of the guys behind them, like Cusick, Schuster, Strider, Elder, Tarnok, others, if one of them, becomes a solid top of the rotation arm, then I think the Braves rotation is pretty well set, through the rest of this decade. But, right now in 2022, I feel like it's going to be one of the best rotations in baseball again, building off what they did in the postseason and having those veterans now in Morton and Fried and really Anderson with all the postseason starts he had. And he always just kind of pitches like a veteran anyway. If you have some of the young guys step up, like I said, a Wright, a Davidson, a Mueller, then I think this rotation's going to be really, really solid now and going forward as well. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at ShortstopBall Also, make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.